Welcome to Magician Recaps Explains. The movie begins with a class setting, and it looks like these little children are enjoying their lunch, until Grace gets Eiffel 65 eyes, and shakes her cup, and her psychic powers crush the cup and her life. We see that a month later, half of the class also died, and the news reports on a disease spreading around called idiopathic adolescent acute neurodegeneration, for short IAN. Time passes, and 90% of America's children have been infected. Then some mysterious chaos continues. Mr. President, Gray, gives his insights on the matter, which he reveals that his son survived the weird pandemic, and endorses some company called the CDC, and claims this is not about politics, and he promises to find a cure for it and leaves. Later on, we see a caring mother and a father giving their adorable kid a cutesy keychain. She's happy, and thanks the dad, and they send her off to sleep. Sometime later in the night, she wakes up, takes the keychain, and sleeps next to her parents. She was planning to get confined, but then a PTSD suddenly rushed into her. It freaks her out, and so she leaves. The next day, the little girl goes into the kitchen where her mommy is preparing something, but she gets shocked, as her mom is asking how she got in there. She wonders how her mom's acting looks like she doesn't really know her. She tries to explain that she is her mom, but the mom says, "I am not your mother," then locks her in the garage. Two sassy men later take her away. Later on, we see her in a school bus convoy, being sent away with other kids, and it's guarded by military men. The bus stops and lets the kids out. Awaiting the poor suckers is some loudmouth drill sergeant, barking orders. Some bonehead kid tells them to piss off, but he's immediately struck by a soldier piss off on the ground. The ragamuffin looks at the soldier with orange eyes, and he actually gets the mind controlling, telling her to wipe herself off. The other kids are sent into the facility, while Mindstorm over there is beaten up to stupor. Later on, the kid gets confronted by a doctor asking her name. She mentions Ruby Daly. "Hey there, movie lover, she's going to be our main character, so don't forget her." She then reveals she doesn't feel sick, but the doctor clarifies that it's not a sickness, rather. She asks about the designated colors, which he explains that greens are smarter, blues have matter moving powers, golds can do shocky shocks, and reds and oranges are the most lethal. The doctor thinks she's green, but the computer says she's orange. She realizes something's up, so she tries to escape, but the doctor runs after her with a needle. Before we get on with it, like the video, smash that subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to join our magical movie family. She suddenly gets a grasp of him, and she manipulates his mind to pass her off as one of the greens. The doctor buys it, and he changes the computer record for her to read as a green. Years later, some Chinooks approach the facility, while the grown-up surviving kids are escorted to a workshop where they work on boots. Moss, one of the soldiers, approaches what looks to be a grown-up Ruby. He yells at Ruby that she's doing it wrong. Then he screams, telling her to look at him. Moss says she's too dumb to be a green, but one of the other greens interject, saying the armed man is stupid as well, brave, but somewhat dumb because she's dragged out of there. They send the kids out to do a frequency test, and no amount of studying will prepare them for this kind of suffering. Ruby blacks out, and later she awakens to some lady, and she's cuffed to her bed. Dr. Kate Begbie introduces herself, and calms her down. She claims she's there for her, but her time with Ruby's done, so she's escorted away by a guard. Once the coast is clear, Ruby checks the chart the doc left, and there's a note that says they know she's actually orange, so she'll totally eliminate her. She tells her to go to the boiler room if she wants to live, and included the key for her cuffs. Ruby makes it to the boiler room. There she meets Dr. Kate, and she escaped with her. Dr. Kate absolutely drives somewhere far away into the outside world, which Ruby gladly explores for the first time in a long time, as if it's almost heaven for her. In West Virginia, Dr. Kate idles her that most people went to cities for work. Ruby can't wait to get home, but Dr. Kate isn't going to leave her home because it's not safe. She also tells her that the oranges are supremely rare and usually killed on sight. She's given a tracking device disguised as a pendant. They arrive at a beat-up gas station, where Rob is introduced. She gets a hold of Rob's hand. This let her peer into his mind, which depicts him roughly capturing some blues. She rushes into the station, and changes clothes. There she finds a little kid with electric powers. The two outside see the commotion, and rush in, but Ruby goes after the little kid, running to a van. Ruby begs to be let in because Rob might try to end her life. The little girl let her in. Then the two guys show up. They get spooked by the couple trying to look for Ruby, so they took off. The two dudes ask the kid what happened. Then Ruby introduces herself. They are left in surprise now. The two guys don't want any strays, but Ruby says she got busted out and she's leaving. Liam doesn't want her to get captured again, so he takes off again. He introduces Chubbs, the other dude, and Zoo, the little girl. A moment later, Zoo points out the front which some crazy lady in a Dodge Charger is charging, and shoots him. Chubbs says it's someone named Lady Jane, and she makes a U-turn, and keeps shooting at him, but she's rammed by Rob and Kate. They escape both parties. Sometime later, they try to fix the damages to the van, and the banter begins. Chubbs is agreeing, so now they want to know why the League, Kate and Rob, is so bent on chasing her. So she opted to go home to Virginia, though Liam doesn't let her go because the roads are filled with tracers. Liam offers to come with her in the East River, where a safe haven for kids is there, led by someone called the Slip Kid, who's rumored to be an orange. Later in the car, Liam warns Ruby against the League because they're crooked. Apparently Liam used to be in the League, but he thought it was too militaristic. They later go to an abandoned mall. Zoo lights it up with her powers, and it's like Christmas in July. Then fun begins, but it ends quickly when they see a get out sign, and they're awkwardly put on top of each other. Some annoying wailing sound kicks in until Zoo shows them the lightning. Turns out the perps are some soup kids too. They are probably the owners of this turf, so they offer some food and a night's worth of rest. They later talk about the Slip Kid and the haven in the East River, but they swore to secrecy on where the Slip Kid's base really is. Back to the road trip. They're already at Lake Prince, which is coincidentally near Ruby's old place. They arrive at Virginia, and they let Ruby visit her house first. But Ruby arrives at a peak, and she thinks she's still a stranger to him. So she leaves it all behind her and runs away. She arrives at a field where Liam catches her, and gives her back her weed keychain. Liam tells her that she has a new family despite her loss, which leads to the overhyped kissing scene. Lady Jane is back, and she pistol whips Ruby and subdues Liam. It's revealed that she also has Chubbs and Zoo hogtied. She says Liam alone fetches a price of $150,000. But Lady Jane's brain is cheap, and makes the mistake of grabbing Ruby, which she grabs back, and let her walk until she sees the Abyss Man. Later on, they find a railroad where EDO is seen. Another headshot group of people with guns are seen rushing over, shouting to Ruby's group to get on the ground. They all restrain themselves to the ground. Then it turns out that Liam knew one of the would-be attackers. Mike here says they found the safe haven for kids. They stand together just like that. They earn a ticket to meet the Slip Kid. They step into his office, and it turns out that Slip Kid is none other than Clancy Gray, the president's son. Clancy knows every one of them, including Ruby. It turns out both of them are the last two oranges apparently. Legendary Clancy gives them a place to stay, and a party is held later on. The next day, Ruby goes into Clancy's quarters. Apparently Ruby didn't get any work assignments, so she tries to get work from Clancy. He says her work is to work with him, and Clancy makes her sit down. Clancy suspects they might be afraid of him. Then he offers to train Ruby with her powers. Lesson number 1 is wireless mind control. Clancy wants to teach Ruby to get into people's heads without touching them. Clancy thinks she's still holding back, so she basically shows him what happened, and she accidentally erased her family's memories. Ruby suddenly asks if Chubbs can use his Mac, but he actually allows it on one condition: for Ruby to teach the mind wipe technique. Ruby's reluctant at first, but she agrees, so they get to some mental work. That night, they get Chubbs and Zoo, and they walk into a trap. Clancy subjugates Liam. Apparently Clancy's trying to raise an army of child super soldiers. It's also revealed he's absurd his own father. He basically wants Liam still alive as a bargaining chip for Ruby, but she mind controls the captain instead. Zoo zaps the lights, and they make a run for it. They unmask the Reds, a bunch of walking napalm cannons, and the gang gets cornered until Liam shields them with a barge. Ruby stands her ground to fight Clancy while the rest try to save and evacuate as many people as they can. Ruby takes control of a bunch of men, but Clancy makes them aim downwards and towards her. She dodges, and they all game end each other. Soon she's subjugated by Clancy, but all changed when Ruby drops an osprey on him. Chubb saves her but gets burned. The fight is lost and the rest are rounded up by the military. Chubbs wants her to save herself, but she finally uses the pendant to signal Kate. Later on, Liam finds the two, and they seriously need a hospital for Chubbs, so Ruby comes clean about calling the League. Liam now has no choice but to stay with him. The League comes by and picks him up. Seems today Ruby wakes up in a nice bed. Kate is there to say that this place owned by the League is safe. Then she says Chubbs is in the hospital. Things get shaky on their argument about the League's deed. Ruby has one condition on fighting with the League: that's to let Liam go. So they allow her to talk to him. Finally, the two-star crossover lovers are reunited. He confesses his love. Ruby asks him to close his eyes to finish the story, with her eyes glowing orange, and a little lip lock ensues. Turns out Ruby uses the moment to erase herself from Liam's memories, and Ruby stands back before Liam could recoil, and he doesn't remember a thing. Kate comes in, and the two introduce themselves as the League. They want to let him go with some supplies. Liam doesn't buy it at first, but he goes. Ruby lets him go with tears, and it turns out she put the keychain on Liam's back. At the end, Clancy's alive, and raises an army, while Ruby with no different assembles her own of Compound V roided kids. Pack it up, because it was the Darkest Minds. What do you guys think about this mind-melting movie? Let us know in those comments below. The Darkest Minds by 20th Century Fox, starring Amanda Stenberg, Harris Dickinson, and Skyland Brooks. Like and subscribe for more videos.